Costumes that are used as weapons against the very heroes who don them. Heroes who should be stronger than they're written to be. And long-standing heroes whose defeats aren't even shown on panel. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda, and this is the top 10 dumbest superhero defeats. Which defeats broke your brain when you first saw them? Number 10. Superman's new costume. Superman at one point had a new costume made for him. The costume was created for him by Lex Luthor, but Superman apparently didn't recognize his bald nemesis because he was in a disguise, i.e. he was wearing a wig. The other fail here on Superman's part comes from the fact that there was literally something built into the suit that he should have noticed. A giant ball of lead. Well, maybe not a giant ball of lead, but a sizable ball of lead. You'd think Superman would see that and immediately be suspicious, because although yes, he can't actually use his X-ray vision on lead, that makes it a lot more obvious that like, hey, that's lead. The lead actually contained kryptonite, Superman's weakness, and Luthor designed the suit so that he could trigger when the lead would be eroded away by acid to reveal the kryptonite, which would weaken Superman at the most opportune time. Also, Superman, this suit is just not very good. How did you not notice something was up with this? It literally has a giant green box across the chest that just reads in blocky letters Superman, and it's bright yellow with purple accents. Bruh. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that like? Number 9. Big Barda is defeated by her own weapon. At one point, Big Barda is living on Earth and she has her purse stolen. The man who steals it takes chase, not realizing who he is just stolen from and that a powerful weapon, her Mega Rod, is in that purse. While escaping into the sewers, he runs into another being from Apocalypse, Sleaze. Sleaze takes the purse and when Big Barda finally catches up, surprises her by knocking her out with her own weapon, because he knows how to use a Mega Rod. He later would use the Mega Rod to control Barda's mind and will, and even tried to force her and Superman to make a raunchy tape together using Barda's Mega Rod. Oh geez, Sleaze. Oof. Number 8. Wonder Woman is bound. One of the dumbest ways that Wonder Woman has been defeated actually correlates to one of her most classic and well-known weaknesses, being bound. In fact, traditionally, this only worked if she was bound by a man. Doing so would reduce her to becoming simply mortal, stripping away all her godlike powers and abilities. Although, to be fair, even a normal woman might be strong or skilled enough to actually escape these bonds. So you would think Wonder Woman might also be. And yes, I understand that this weakness also has symbolic significance for this character, but relative to the character and how powerful she normally is, it's still kinda dumb. Because it's like, yeah, you're powerful all the time, but if a man bounds you, that's it? You just lose it all? Wow. Harsh. Number 7. Hulk loves puppies. If you can believe it, at one point Hulk was actually defeated by his love of puppies. This was revealed to be a method that S.H.I.E.L.D. used to successfully calm Hulk down. Hulk has even stated in the comics before that his favorite animal is a dog, so I guess this makes sense in that regard, but that doesn't make it any less ridiculous. Hence why it's on this list. Number 6. Barbara Gordon forgets her training. This has always been a weird superhero defeat that has baffled me personally. So Barbara Gordon is Batgirl, right? And yet in The Killing Joke, which admittedly is a story that initially was intended to exist purely outside of canon and still sort of does, Barbara is accosted by the Joker pretty easily. Now granted, this was while Barbara was in her civilian form and was visiting her father, Jim Gordon, at his home. So she goes to answer the door and is surprised to see the Joker there, who shoots her in the stomach. I understand being surprised and I understand not wanting to reveal your identity as Batgirl, but come on. This is Babs! I feel like she could have handily disarmed the Joker here with everything else I know about her and how skilled she is. Or at least she should have been able to, in my headcanon. Maybe I'm being unreasonable to assume this, but I really don't think so. Also, I feel like even if you're like, oh, I gotta protect my secret identity by doing nothing, you could still do something. I mean, you are Jim Gordon's daughter, so I feel like people would assume you have some kind of combat training. Number 5. Jean's planetary-sized stroke. Sometimes I think about some of the things happening in the Krakoa era, and when I remember all the history of these characters, it blows my mind. Like when, for example, during Grant Morrison's new X-Men run in issue 150, Magneto was revealed to be Zorn, although thankfully we'd actually get an entirely different Zorn later on, and Magneto here used an electromagnetic pulse to give Jean Grey, who at the time had the power of the Phoenix Force, a quote planetary scale stroke. End quote. What that means, I still don't really know. What is that? This all went down at a moment too when Jean was actually winning the fight, but was used as a method for Magneto to basically turn the tables on her. Jean would end up dying in this battle, even though the idea of beating the Phoenix in this way just seems, pretty ridiculous to me. This is the Phoenix we're talking about, who can control, manipulate, and even create matter at an atomic level, who also prior to this was stabbed through by Wolverine, which she not only survived, but this actually unleashed her power, her latent Phoenix abilities. And yet somehow, after all that, she ends up killed by a stroke. Well, I guess it's not any stroke, it is a planetary scale one, but still. Also, what does that even mean? It's so comics. And now it's really weird to think that Jean and Magneto were friendly up until his death. That's pretty crazy. Number 4, Batwoman goes out with a whimper. For this point, we are not talking about Kate Kane, Batman's cousin and the current Batwoman over at DC Comics. We're talking instead about the first Batwoman, Kathy Kane. Although she does sound like she would be the same person based on, both of her names. This version of the character, however, was actually not related to Batman and was even a bit of a love interest for him, as well as a female crime-fighting partner. However, apparently neither her skills nor her connection and long-standing relationship with the Caped Crusader would protect her from getting unceremoniously fridged. Long before the term was ever coined, I believe, in issue number 485, more than 250 issues after her first appearance, she was killed, get this, off-panel, when Batman was knocked out. The League of Assassins had come for Kathy and Batman was unable to stop them. While he was knocked unconscious, she was killed, and of course we don't get to see any of that because he was knocked out and we're following his narrative, not hers. So with her death really only served as well to give Batman motivation to go after the League of Assassins, so there's also that point. Very unfortunate. Number 3, Green Lantern sees yellow. Yep, what a ridiculous way to defeat Green Lantern, but this was the approach that was taken in Frank Miller's Batverse. In All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder issue number 9, Batman is confronted by Green Lantern, Hal Jordan. In this reality, Batman is not yet part of the Justice League, and Green Lantern doesn't like the way that Batman is operating. He's one of the people who is kind of more against offering Batman a place on the team, but he did think he could be redeemed. After all, Batman is still a hero, but it's his methods that Hal and many of the other team members take issue with, which is why Hal came to talk to him about that. However, this talk did not go so well. Green Lantern meets Batman and Robin in one of Batman's safe houses, which has all been completely painted yellow, right down to Batman and Robin's face and suits. Robin even eats yellow ice cream while Batman drinks yellow lemonade. It's like overkill. Obviously, this is done to mock Hal's weakness to the color and probably to actually weaken him, to be honest. Not only does Batman claim the moral high ground in their debate, but Robin actually manages to steal Green Lantern's ring in this issue, and then he, not Batman, is the one who proceeds to defeat him in a fistfight, even almost killing him, with Batman being forced to take aggressive action to save Hal's life. Also, could you imagine being in the ambulance that comes to this emergency call? You come into this safe house, everything's yellow everywhere, that would be so weird. Oh boy. Number 2, Batman kicks the Hulk and lives. In DC Special Series issue number 27 from 1981, we get a strange mashup of Batman and the Hulk. Like many superhero team-ups, especially involving crossovers between publishers, these two end up initially forced to fight one another, with the Hulk being led to believe that Batman is his enemy, having been manipulated by the Joker. And I think we all know how we'd imagine this fight would go. Hulk versus Batman, you would think the Hulk's definitely gonna win that fight. Batman is extremely skilled, but he is just a man. During their first fight, Batman desperately attempts to defeat the Hulk by using sleeping gas. However, Hulk understands that the gas is dangerous and decides to hold his breath. Batman surmises that he needs to find a way to make the Hulk breathe, because the Hulk could probably hold his breath forever, since his lungs are so big. First of all, Batman, I don't think that's the way lungs work. Just because the Hulk has a larger lung capacity doesn't mean he could hold his breath for longer, I don't think. His body is simply larger, which is why his lungs are bigger, and lung size doesn't necessarily correlate to being skilled at holding one's breath, at least not as far as I know. In fact, the Hulk being large would likely just mean that his body requires more oxygen, hence his larger lungs. Secondly, Batman kicks Hulk in the stomach to force him to breathe, which somehow works. Which is insane, considering that Batman is just a normal man with amazing skills. In other words, how did he succeed and also not shatter his leg in his attempt to do so? I mean, a kick from Batman to Hulk has to feel like nothing. And also, if Batman kicked the Hulk with enough force to do that, you would think he would mess himself up really bad. Number 1. Dollar Bill's cape. A lot of people say that capes are dumb. It's not just Edna Mode saying that. And if you were able to ask the Dollar Bill, I'm sure he'd actually agree with them. But you can't, because 1, he's a fictional character, and 2, he's dead. Dollar Bill is a minor character from Watchmen. He was a member of the Minutemen in the 1940s. While attempting to stop an armed bank robbery, his cape was caught in a revolving door, and he was shot and killed. So, no capes! That's about it. Until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube.